You're watching France 24 live from Paris, and if you're just joining us, we have ongoing coverage this afternoon of the war between Israel and Hamas. The latest news this hour, today, 2 days after the Hamas offensive began, the Israeli army now says it's in control of all communities inside its borders. But the death toll in Israel is unprecedented. This afternoon, it stands at over 700 lives. Dozens more have been kidnapped. In response, Israel has begun a major bombing campaign on the Gaza Strip, and a ground offensive may well soon follow. Nearly 500 Palestinians have been killed as well. And today, the Israeli Defense Minister said he was imposing a complete siege on Gaza, blocking food and fuel.
We are putting a complete siege on Gaza. No electricity, no food, no water, no gas. It's all closed. We're fighting animals and are acting accordingly.
Well, let's talk about the situation in Gaza then. I'm very pleased to be joined now live from Amman by Juliette Touma. She's the Director of Communications for UNRWA. That's the United Nations agency that works with Palestinian refugees. Thank you very much indeed for finding the time to talk to us on France 24 today.
Thank you very much.
What are you hearing from UNRWA staff on the ground today as to the humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip following the airstrikes overnight and indeed more strikes today?
The situation in the Gaza Strip is catastrophic. We have been sheltering in UNRWA schools. UNRWA is the UN agency for Palestine refugees. We have been sheltering at least 70,000 people, and the numbers as we speak continue to increase. The capacity of these shelters is quite limited. We have not seen this level of displacement in many years, maybe ever. And the number of casualties, including one staff member who works with the UN, who was very sadly killed this morning. We had 3 of our students killed at least. And I'm not able to give you the latest figures because the death toll and the number of injuries continue to increase as we speak due to the heavy bombardment and airstrikes ongoing on Gaza.
A bit more, though, about the situation for civilians who are sheltering in schools run by your organisation, run by UNRWA. If they are in a UN school, are those civilians safe from the airstrikes?
They're supposed to be protected, yes. And so these are civilians who come to these, what we call emergency designated centers. These are centers that are schools, and schools are de facto, should be protected. They are civilians and they should be protected at all times, including during the time of fighting.
And you may have heard in that soundbite we played a short while ago that the Israeli Minister of Defense has now ordered a complete siege of Gaza. That includes a blockade on fuel and on food. What will that mean for civilians who are stuck there in the coming hours and days?
Well, Gaza until the 7th of October has been under blockade. It has been under a blockade for the past 16 years. And the situation on the ground in Gaza pre-7 of October has been very dire. And many of those who were living in the Gaza Strip were anyway dependent on assistance coming from organizations like the UN, among others. Any further intensification of a blockade is going to be catastrophic for the civilians in Gaza, because these are people who have been already living in very deep poverty, probably one of the highest in the world, and certainly one of the highest in this region. Levels of unemployment is extremely high. At least 1.2 million people depend on food aid that is coming from the agency I work with. So the situation, which is already a crisis pre-7 of October, could just turn into a catastrophe for about 2 million people living in the Gaza Strip.
Absolutely.
Many of them are civilians, Many are women, many are children.
And therefore, what would UNRWA like to see happen now to try and help those civilians? Are you lobbying, for example, the Egyptian authorities to open their border to make it easier for Palestinian civilians to escape these bombardments?
Well, the UN is calling for an end to the fighting everywhere and an end to the violence so that people have respite, so that we don't see more people killed totally unnecessarily wherever they are. This should stop immediately. And if this stops, then it means we are able to resume our operations, to attend to the wounded, to deliver humanitarian assistance, and to do our jobs. And so the time now is to stop this violence and to reach a ceasefire so that we're able to resume our operations and help those who need us most.
Just a point of clarification then, you're talking about resuming UNRWA operations. Does that mean because of the violence ongoing at the moment, UNRWA is not able to operate and help Palestinian refugees in the way that it normally does?
We do operate, but we are operating at the very, very minimal capacity. So, for example, our food assistance in Gaza has stopped because of everything that's been going on. The schools that we manage, we run over 250 schools in the Gaza Strip. We were forced to close our schools. Our health programs is working at a very minimum level. So yes, because of the fighting, we were forced to reduce the operations that we normally give to 1.4 million people in the Gaza Strip.
Juliette Touma, the Director of Communications for UNRWA, that's the UN agency that works with Palestinian refugees. Thank you very much indeed.
Welcome.